live from the planet Lovetron. This is the Thomas Game Podcast.
Oh, sorry, I had to laugh.
You know why you get to laugh all the time? This is episode 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
We reached double digits on the last one. This is episode 11.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How you doing today, dear?
I'm doing good. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Shout out to all the Aries out there, but we don't care. Whatever.
What?
We
Turn this.
hey.
I was beating you up just so everybody knows. I was just beating him up.
That sounds horrible, man. But hope everybody out there is safe. Want to shout out to all the
Aries.
Them too. All the first responders out there.
Such a hater.
Shout out to them. All the all the married couples, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the baby mama, baby daddies, the single ones, everybody out there dating, trying to find their way. Want to say what's up to them. And again, as usual, if this is your first time, if it's not your first time, you've been listening, man, go ahead and subscribe to this Thomas Game Podcast on YouTube, man. If you don't, I don't know who the hell doesn't have YouTube, in 2020, but go ahead and make an account, subscribe, and also hit the notification button. Once you do that, you will get every notification that every video that is updated. And you can also check us out on Google Podcasts, Anchor, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Spotify as well.
Yes, and thanks to everybody who already subscribed also. All of our subscribers. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
We greatly appreciate all the ones that support us and listen to us every week. Continue to do that. Tell a friend to tell a friend. So today, on this episode, usually we come in, we talk about relationships, and we still will. We have fun. We still gonna have fun. But today,
in lieu of Autism Awareness Month.
Right, April. If you're unaware, April is Autism Awareness Month, and April 2nd is Autism Awareness Day. So we're gonna talk a little bit about autism, what it is, and I've done it on my podcast for the past 2 years, so I want to keep that going every year, every April. Lord willing, to continue to push that flag and bring awareness to a lot of communities like our own.
Yeah.
Family members, friends, and people who may not know about autism because it hasn't hit their family. So we're gonna get into that today.
Yeah, we're gonna share our personal experience with autism and let you guys in on our experience and some of the challenges that we faced, and hope you guys sit back and enjoy it, and hopefully this inspires someone who may be affected with autism, or their friend, son, daughter, any family member, somebody that they know. I'm sure now everybody knows one person that has autism. Right.
This is definitely something that has been getting more awareness in the past.
Absolutely.
In the past over a decade before, coming up, especially me as a youngin'. We didn't know anybody.
There wasn't a name for it. I think, it was heard of, but not as much as we hear about it today.
Right. So the first question for people who may not know what it is, ASD, which stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. And I'll give a brief description of what it is. ASD has to do with, it's a developmental disability that can cause significant social, communication, and behavior challenges. So that's the main thing. That's what ASD is, which is, again, Autism Spectrum Disorder. And right now, I have a son that will be 12 this year, and he was diagnosed at age 2. And last year, usually when numbers go down, it's a great thing when numbers go down, because it means that things decrease.
Right.
Last year, it was 1 out of 68 children
that were diagnosed with autism.
With autism. Now in 2020, that number has went down, and again, for this situation, a number going down is not a good thing. So now autism affects 1 out of 54 children.
Wow. Since last year. That's a significant drop.
Right. And also a key note that you guys want to check out or be aware of: boys are 4 times more likely to have autism than girls. And also about autism, 40% of children with autism do not speak. So these are, we're not gonna hit you with a whole bunch of episode full of stats, but these are some of the key stats that you may want to be aware of.
Right. Well, I want to get into how it personally affects our family, because I'm sure there's other families out there who are also going through the same thing. And I want to know, I wanted to you to tell people, when you first received his diagnosis, what was your reaction? What was your initial reaction?
Well, didn't know anything about it. Like I said earlier, never heard, other than the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and what's the other, I can't think of the guy's name at the moment. Famous actor, is crazy. Homie from Mission Impossible, short guy, Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom, yeah.
Tom Cruise and Dennis Hoffman. I never knew anything about autism. Never knew anybody. Wasn't in my family. Wasn't aware of it. So at first, looking at Jay, just thought that he may have a speech problem. So maybe he might need a speech therapy or something like that. But having him around people that was familiar with that disability and been around kids with that disability, they were telling me he need to get checked for that.
Okay.
So, but when I got the news, I didn't know anything about it.
Were you scared? Were you
absolutely, because no one wants to hear anything is wrong with their kid or their kid have anything.
That's
so
heartbreaking.
Yeah, so even though I know what it is, I know it's something that's different, and it possibly can have an effect on him. So when I got the news, the first thing is you get tested, you get I can't even think of the name right now, CAT scan, MRI, all that kind of stuff. You get that, to make sure that the brain is functioning properly. So he did that, and once that was done with, there was no problem with the brain. So again, once I received this news, okay, he's fine.
Right.
He just has speech problems. But I was quickly told, no, he's autistic.
But he has a mild case.
Right.
Really, a very mild case.
Let me definitely say that he has a mild case. So every child is different. Like I said earlier, 40% of children with autism are nonverbal.
Right.
JJ is verbal. He's always been verbal, but when he was, before the time he was diagnosed, he just wasn't speaking clearly. He knew what he was saying, but we didn't know what he was saying.
Understand him?
He knew exactly what he was saying. So he is verbal. Matter of fact, he talked too damn much.
No, he don't.
But he
knows what he wants to say and when he wants to say it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I quickly, was informed that he has autism, I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
I would think that would be, most parents' reaction when they hear something like that. Because especially when you don't know too much about it, and this is the first time that it affects you, you really don't know what to say, what to do. If there's a cure. Did you think there was a cure at that time?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did. I didn't know anything about it. I thought maybe through therapy, or I heard rumors of medication, which I never wanted him to be on medication. He's not on medication. But I thought maybe it's something if he take, through the years, that it can go away. But, people out there listening, if you're unaware of autism, there is absolutely no cure for it.
But that's a good point you just made about the medication. He is not on medication. He's never been on medication.
Never have and never will be on medication. That's something that I was very stern on. Didn't want any medication with him. I wanted him to be himself. This will not define who he is. He just, over the years, with help from everyone, the love that he gets from everyone, he'll and his consistent learning every day, that he was gonna survive with this. Because again, I want to specify that it is not a cure; it's a lifestyle. So this is not something like a disease where you could take medication and you could just it'll possibly go away.
Right, and you can have a normal life.
Right.
Right.
So no, this is not there's no cure for it.
Now, did doctors encourage you guys to try medication?
Of course they brought that up.
That was always the first
Yeah,
thing.
Of course, like most doctors, the first thing they're gonna do is offer medicine. It's the easiest thing to subscribe is medicine for everything in life. When it comes to any kind of problems, medicine was against that from day one. Medicine was not an option. Now I will say this: depend on what your status your child is as far as
Like where on the spectrum they are.
right. JJ is mild. You have some children that they're high, so they may have more. They may also have can't think of the name of the
Asperger's, is that?
No. That's different than autism.
Okay.
That's not as strong as autism, but their attention span, their behavior may be through the roof. Just put it like that. They may have ADD as well
ADD.
as that's what I'm trying to say, as well as autism. So some of those kids may need to take medication, and I've
Right.
seen kids like that on medication, and they're calm and they're cool. So they may need to take that. It was never an option for JJ.
Right.
Medication was not an option. So that's something I would suggest people out there to do your research on before you just listen to a doctor. As far as, and that's just with anything, not just autism or anything else. Do your research before you go run into medicine as the number one option.
Right. There's always a second option
Always.
besides medication.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So let me ask you: did you, before JJ, have you heard of autism before?
I have, but I've heard of it. I've never really experienced it personally with nobody in my family. I never had a close relationship with anyone with autism like how I have with Jay. So, being around him, being around you, I learned a lot about it. So, I think it's one of those things that it doesn't affect you until it affects you.
Right. And that's understandable. Like, so in the beginning, I mean, he's definitely different from, how long you know him now. We're going on 7 years?
Six years, yeah.
6 years?
Yeah.
Were there any challenges from the beginning?
In the beginning, yes, I would say there were some challenges only because he was still trying to get used to me, familiar with me.
Right.
And vice versa, and Tamaya. And I know one of the things you told me about, him having autism is that he's used to a routine. Right. So with me and Tamaya coming in and he don't really know us, I felt, bad because it was rough. He didn't talk. Tamaya, at the time was very little, so she thought he didn't like her. That they did not get along in the beginning. Just keep it 100. They did not. It took time for them to get along. Right. And what I think helped Tamaya was giving her videos. Like I know you showed her some videos. Mm-hmm. We read some books to her. We try to make her understand that he is different. Not less, but he's different. Right. So not to take things so personally. And I think once she understood that, because again, she was very young. Like our kids were like 6 and 7 years old.
Right. And it's hard to tell a 6-year-old that another six or 7 year old
especially
is a certain way and they're different. And, a 7-year-old.
To where they would understand.
Right. Hell, adults don't know,
Yeah, that's true.
So it's hard to tell a child that.
And for us, like if you guys have a child like mine, Chatty Patty, she talks to everybody. You know what I mean? So, and everybody gravitates to her. Everybody likes her. So, her feelings was hurt when he would do things, not speak to her or not share his toys with her. So she didn't really understand that. So that was one of the challenges that we faced, trying to get our kids to get along. And, with him, with most kids, we kind of learned that all children need love. All children need love. All children need kindness. Right. It makes no difference whether they have a disability. And I wouldn't even say it's a disability. Like, I never looked at Jay and said, you know what, he's autistic. He has a disability. He may learn and do things with a different ability, but not a disability. So, and I think once I came around more, our relationship got better. He started getting used to me. I started getting hugs, little kisses here and there. So that made me feel better. And bringing Tamaya around him, of course, he got used to her being around. Their relationship got better.
Right, I agree. Yeah, he just had, just like with any other kid, he had to get comfortable with people that surround him.
Right.
And when he did, the love grew, and he still loves y'all to death. So, so I'm going to give an example of some of the behaviors that's out there as well. You said that he's used to being on the schedule. That's very true. Like most kids that are autistic, they're used to patterns, they're used to schedules, and sometimes when you break that schedule, it can throw them off a little bit, and they can react in the way that they react, and also being very repetitive.
Yes, I remember. That was always I loved about him though. That was his way to me of learning. The more he repeated things, he was learning. Right,
and he's always done that, and he may continue to do that for the rest of his life. Like I said, he's always been verbal, but he is repetitive in things that he said. He'll say something 100 times a day.
Yeah, and I think one way to help, embrace it. Just embrace all of it. Don't make him feel bad. If you know someone who has autism, don't make them feel bad. I mean, it was times where we would do it too. He would say something over and over, and we would do it too. And what he would say, stop saying that. Stop doing that.
The thing is,
so you just embrace it.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't treat them different. It's all about. It's not them coming into your world. It's you going to their world. That's how you have to take a situation like this.
Right, and it's interesting you bring that up because a lot of people, like I hear conversations from other people who don't know too much about it, and let's say the child does something that they shouldn't be doing. The first thing they want to say, well, you need to discipline them. It's different when you discipline a child with autism versus a child that's not autistic.
Yeah.
So, and you can't fix them. There's no fixing them. I hear a lot of people say that word. You know what I mean? And to me, that's offensive.
Yeah, you cannot, fix a child that has autism. And one of the main things, like older people, we just said that we're not used to or didn't know anything about autism. So you can imagine how parents or grandparents or people older than us can accept that. And you cannot discipline a child who's autistic like how you discipline a regular kid.
Right.
Like, it's not gonna work.
And it's been sometimes like we would all be out and it's like you want to discipline them, you want to say go in timeout, or you want to take some certain things and you want to do certain things but you can't. And I think for me, because that's not what I was used to, those little things were a little bit challenging. But what made our situation work, I think, coming to you never was defensive about it. I guess if I came to you and be like, I'm kind of uncomfortable with this, or Tamaya's uncomfortable with that, and I never came at you, with no disrespect, no attitude. It was pure, genuine, pure love, pure patience, kindness. And you were always willing to work with us to find a solution. I mean, we've even did therapy together. So, that helped. You never, turned a, blind eye to whatever was going on. You was always willing to talk to me about it. And, I think that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, because if anybody's been through it, it is not easy to try to date people when you have a autistic child or a child with special needs, because everyone would not be as open as you were. People will be quick to run away because it's something different and it's a challenge to them. So shout out to people that stuck around with people who have autistic kids and was open like you, was willing to learn, and they stuck through it.
Yeah.
Because most of the time with something different, people are not don't want to see anything different.
They don't, but that's when you have to kind of open your mind, and don't be so closed-minded. Be willing to learn. Be willing to have patience. You know what I mean? You have to have patience. And that's what in a relationship, you have to develop patience. That's a big part of it. Patience and love. Like, you have to love them as if they were your own. And when they see that love pouring out from you, they love you back.
Yeah.
They love you back. Like, Jay immediately gravitated to me. Like, the hugging with the kissing, he comes to me, he'll talk to me. And that made me feel so good. You know, it made Tamaya feel good. So, you know, that plays a big part in it too.
Yeah, he's very affectionate. And one thing I wanna kill immediately is it's a misconception about children with autism that they're dumb or they're slow. When it's the complete opposite. You know, again, you know, most
They'll
of the
teach you some things.
yes, they will. The problem, the main problem is social skills with children with autism and problems with their brain. Again, Jay did not have any problems with his brain. They just take things different. They
Right.
intake things different, and they come out different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they're not dumb. Like if you saw that movie Rain Man, he was very he was very smart. A lot of autistic kids are smart in math, and Rain Man was one
Yeah.
of them. You know, I don't know if you guys watched the TV show The Good Doctor. It's a really good show that comes on ABC.
Love that show.
I do too, and he's an autistic doctor, and he's very, you know, he of course his communication skills is different than a normal person. That's also a thing with people with autism. But the way he think things out is different. But he's a thinker. He's very intelligent. So it's just a different world that they live in.
Yeah, it is. But you know, I love with our kids too. When Tamaya would, you know, when they would come and they would play together, like he always, like once they got used to being around each other, he always wanted to play with her. You know, she would, you know, read to him. He would be willing to read with her. You know, she would do different little learning games with him. He was always willing. He was actually more responsive to her than me and you.
Right.
Like we would sit down and try to teach him how to read. And, you know, he may give us a hard time, but if Tamaya did it,
Yeah.
another child, someone who's close in his age, he did it.
Right.
No problem.
And speaking of reading, when he turned maybe around 5 or 6, I saw an article online, and it said that one way that can help a child with autism communicate better is an iPod or a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, you know, it gave me an idea, like, okay, I have to get one.
Right.
And when I say, you know, I mean, that tablet is his best friend.
It's made a big difference.
It made a big difference. You know, you could get, you know, which is a tip that I give to people who are raising children with autism and the ones that don't know yet, they're just learning, listening to this. Get them a tablet, get them an iPad, you know. It definitely helps, especially if they have problems verbally. You know, you could get, there are games for autistic kids or just regular games where you could, they could better learn how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
They can read. You know, they have all these different games, and he's been having a tablet since he's been 5, 6 years old, and it's helped him out tremendously, along with school, along with therapy, and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a tip out there for people wondering, you know, what else can you use to help a child out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, he definitely is more willing to learn on that tablet than trying to have an open book or something like that. So that's actually a big deal, made a big difference. And since I've known him, like from back then to now, he has what's the word I'm looking for? Progressed, like extremely since then. You know, of course he was a little bit younger. He was like a baby. Not a baby, but you know, I always say he's a baby. All my kids are babies, but to now, it's impressive. It's so impressive considering that you guys were told that he wouldn't be able to. You know, were you guys told he wasn't going to be able to talk or?
No,
do different things?
we was never told that, because again, he was verbal.
Right.
Like usually they'll tell a child who's nonverbal that they'll never speak again, and the way to communicate will be, you know, sign language, or if you're not verbal, would be a tablet. They'll tell people these things, but he was always verbal, so we never got a he'll never do this, he'll never do that. We got a you need to try this, you need to try that. Right, and hopefully he'll get better down the line. People out there listening, you know, because I had got quite a few messages out there, you know, for us to do a podcast like this about autism, and they had questions. You know, people out there listening, if you have questions, what are some of the signs that, you know, that may show that if my child has autism. One of them is not responding to their name by 12 months of age. That's a sign there. Avoids eye contact and wants to be alone. That was JJ. Have delayed speech and language skills. That was also JJ. Get upset by minor changes. Have obsessive interests. Flap their hands. Rock their body, or spin in circles. And it's a lot of red flags out there. But not play pretend games. Pretend to feed a doll by 18 months. So there are several different red flags out there for a person with ASD. And if you see these things, go ahead and have your child get tested. It's better to do it now while they're, before the age of 2,
right.
So you can kind of figure things out and see what you can do in the future.
Right, to help them, because I'm telling you, like, right now, with Jay, some of the things that I've read about autism, as far as them having like a sensory to noise or sunlight, like bright lights, or they don't like to play with other kids. Yeah. He's like the quite opposite, Yeah. He plays with everybody, like everybody. I don't think there's one person he won't play with. Now he'll get a little tired after a while and want to do his own thing, but
yeah, that's every kid.
Yeah, he plays and he shares his toys. I mean, not toys now because he's like 12 years old, but that tablet. Well, with the girls, I ain't gonna say he is a ladies' man, definitely. But you know it. But yeah, some of those, it's funny because you think that your child won't be able to do things that other kids do, and to me, I see no difference in him.
Right. And also, let me give some other information here for unusual interests and behaviors. Line up toys and other objects. Plays with toys the same way every time. JJ definitely did that. Likes parts of objects, like wheels, etc. Like, let me give you an example. JJ, cars would be broken down and he would play just with the wheel, or he would play with the middle part of the car. So those are signs. Very organized. As crazy as that sounds, you say very organized, that's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
children with autism, they're very organized. They'll line up their toys, their shoes, or whatever a certain way that it would be unusual for a child. So that is considered a unusual behavior. Has obsessive interests, has to follow certain routines like we spoke of earlier. So these are definitely, if you see these signs again, go ahead and get your child tested. And we're not saying that there's something wrong with the child, but if these red flags pop up, which are unusual, go ahead and get your child tested.
Yeah, it's only going to benefit them in the long run.
Right.
It's only going to be a benefit from there.
And again, I want to say this too, we're not experts. We're only going off the experience of my son. Mm-hmm. So, this is 2020. There's so much access to resources and information on autism.
Yes.
You can always.
And that has helped, especially going to those
definitely
Autism Speaks walks.
Definitely.
How they have all those resources and vendors out there to provide you with help, information. Right. Whatever you need, they have it. So, you just got to get involved and go online and do your research and find, people that share the same, can relate to you. That helps.
Right. Again, you go Google information on autism. There are, like Tiff said, different groups out there. There's support groups that help you out, that, other parents that's going through the same thing that you're going through, they can help you. Also, for the past couple of years, we joined Autism Speaks, and we do a walk every April. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, because of, what's been going on with the virus, we haven't been able to do it this month, but it has been pushed back until August. And as a matter of fact, we will have the link if you want to support Team JJ. That's something that we do for him every year. This is not something that we get paid for. I want to make that very clear. We're not collecting any money. This money goes to help research for autism. Also, just do your research. Not just, Autism Speaks. Do your research, because some of these companies, have other intentions with their, with their situations. But make sure you do your research carefully when it comes to these different organizations. But they have books on autism. if you want to know about it, there's no reason why you can't. There's
Right.
so much resources out there, just like anything else.
Right. And that's what I had to do coming into this situation with you. Just I read a lot of books, just to see how, I can change for him for the better. You know what I mean? What I needed to do, because I loved you, I loved him, and at the end of the day, he's a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's a child. So you just have to. I think the most important thing is the more love you show to these kids, it gets easier.
Yeah, that's the main thing that is needed. It's not medicine. It's not
It's
discipline.
love. It's
love.
attention. It's you working with them, you being there for them, you supporting them, and it's no different than any other child. All children need that.
And my son did go through different situations as far as helping him out. School was one of them. Speech therapy was another one. Occupational therapy. These things helped him out. Every year to get to where he is now, and he's still getting better every year. And people hearing this who may be in the same situation or unsure about it, you're not alone. Celebrities, they have kids, they go through it as well. Tony Braxton, Tisha Campbell, Holly Robinson, Pete. It's a lot of Royce the 5'9". It's a lot of different people out there. Yeah, it does. And as far as vaccines and all this other stuff, do your research on that as well. I'm not gonna sit up here and tell you what not to do as far as vaccines, because I'm not a doctor. I have my beliefs, but I need to learn about that as well. Just be careful.
It's definitely nothing genetic. It's not genetics.
No.
It's something that possibly a lot of scientists and researchers are saying that it is coming from the vaccines. Like, I see a lot of stories about that.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. So again, just do your research carefully. To do what's best for you and your family.
Right. And not to sound, insensitive to anyone out there who's maybe experiencing a child that has been diagnosed with autism, but we are very blessed because he is one of the easiest childs to be around. Yeah. Unless he don't have that tablet, then you might, run into some difficulties. But he is the easiest child to watch, and he's the most loving child. You know what I mean? So I'm just thankful.
Yeah, we're definitely thankful because we have seen other kids.
Yeah, you read about other stories and you're just like, man, thank you, Lord.
Right, who their condition is they have a full condition where they're nonverbal. Like I said earlier, they have ADD. People won't watch them because they're a lot to deal with because of their condition. It's not their fault. It's just the condition that we have. So, we're blessed.
Right.
We're definitely blessed. If people out there listening, if you have any questions or concern and you would like us to talk about it and go over it, you can reach us at thethomasgang2020@gmail.com. Again, that's thethomasgang2020@gmail.com. And before we get out, is there anything else that you wanted to speak on?
Well, honestly, I just wanted to say that I really commend you and his mom, because you guys have done an excellent job with him as parents. You guys are like one of the best parents that I've seen as far as co-parenting with a child with autism. So I definitely want to commend you.
Shout out to his mom. Shout out to the entire autism community. Shout out to the family members that also support us, because that's key. Because it could be difficult.
Yeah, we have a great family.
Great supporting cast. JJ has like 3 different sides of family that he could, maybe even more, that he can lean to.
Yeah. That
love him and adore him. Again, we will have the link on YouTube to where if you want to donate to Team JJ. Again, that money does go to the research of autism, and we do not see it, we do not touch it. This is something that happens
straight to the organization.
Straight to the organization for research. And again, anybody out there listening, we don't want you to feel like you're alone. So just seek the best help and the best research that you can find. And acceptance may be the most difficult part of all this, because again, no one wants to hear that their child there's something wrong with your child.
Right.
But if it is,
nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's a very fine
Very
line
sensitive.
when you bring it up, when you
But
talk about anybody's kids.
but if it is, accept it and see what you can do the best that you can. You know, once you accept it, you'll be fine and everything will work out.
Embrace it,
Yeah.
man. Just embrace it.
Right. So this is episode 11, Thomas Gang. Again, you can check us out on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and others as well. So we are out. Stay safe out there.